Tales from Earthsea movie review. So this is a film from Ghibli Studios. Ghibli Studios, of course, being the famous Japanese animation company that did movies like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Laputa, The Castle in the Sky, etc., right? This movie came out when I was in Japan, actually, and I was really excited to see it. I've never read any of Ursula Le Guin's books. I really should. She's quite famous in the anarchist community because she has written a number of books with anarchist themes, or so I've been told. I actually did try and read one of her books back in college, The Dispossessed, and didn't really get into it, but I probably didn't stick it out either. One of these days, I'm going to give it another try. Yeah, so kind of combining Ursula Le Guin's fantasy with the Ghibli Studios, I thought would be a really exciting movie, but it wasn't, at least in my opinion. The problem, in my opinion, with this movie is its pacing. For a very long time, nothing happens. Now, according to Wikipedia, Ursula Le Guin herself actually criticized this movie for the opposite reason. She thought that it was too much focused on the violent scenes. With apologies, I have actually the opposite opinion. I think the movie could have used a lot more action to kind of wake things up, especially in the second half. This problem is further aggravated by the fact that the voice actors have these very kind of sedate voices. It sounds almost like they're falling asleep. And this is true on my DVD in both the Japanese original and in the English dub. So it must be intentional, because whatever they were going for, they did it in both versions. I guess they were going for a sedate feel, but to me it sounded like it was a little bit too lulling. Of course, I'm always cautious about relying too much on my own opinion, because I've been wrong before. But when I was living in Japan, after I'd seen this movie, I talked about it with a number of Japanese friends and sounded them out on it, and they mostly had kind of the same opinion as me. They thought that it was a little bit boring and moved way too slowly. Now, there are some interesting themes in this movie, specifically about death and kind of coming to terms with your own mortality. But I'm always reluctant to credit a movie too much just for including themes. Like, in my opinion, it's not enough just to reference a theme. You've got to do something interesting with that theme, and I'm not sure this movie does, for a couple reasons. One, it's got the talky parts and it's got the action parts, but I'm not sure there was ever really a connection between them. You could have maybe taken out all those conversations about mortality and death, and I'm not sure they would have impacted the overall plot of the movie that much. For another thing, like, coming to terms with your mortality is like a big subject. Like, there are books written on this which maybe don't even fully satisfy the question. So to attempt to deal with this in a 2-hour movie is really ambitious. It bites off more than it can chew, and I don't think really in the space of a 2-hour movie you've got the time to do anything interesting with that subject. And so they tends to just kind of revert back to making cliches about the life cycle. I felt to me like I was just watching The Lion King all over again, you know, in this circle of life type stuff, which is okay as far as it goes, I guess. But if that's really all that you've got to say about the subject, that's not terribly interesting.